We have that ready to go. Nat Alden, I'll introduce the Power Guru team. I know a lot of you already know us already. And hi, welcome. Thanks for joining us. But for those of you that don't, we're a lean and mean little team here. Nathan Russell here on the call is our VP of Operations, and Nat Alden is working in sales and marketing, leading our residential team. And then I'm here with you now, working on sales and marketing things as well for Power Guru. But I want to introduce, we have a lot of special guests here this evening. And in particular, I was just at the Rev 2020 event where I met Representative Mike Yantachka. Mike has held a few roles in government and is very smart, comes to us from RPI, which our former founder was a graduate of as well. So Mike actually just corrected me earlier and is based in Charlotte, Vermont, but he has served the Vermont House of Representatives. I think I hear some background noise. If everyone wants to make sure they're muted, we'll definitely unmute you and have this be a collaborative conversation here shortly. But Mike served on the House Committee of Natural Resources and Energy until 2017, where he then switched gears and went over to the Energy and Technology Committee for the state of Vermont, and focusing on jurisdiction and legislation for clean energy, telecommunications, and IT services. Mike is proud to have assisted in developing several pieces of legislation for our state, all promoting renewable energy development throughout Vermont. So welcome, Mike. We're going to turn it over to Mike here shortly, and Becca, please, as well. And Becca, I'm going to let you introduce your government background as well with Mike. But also want to introduce you all to Nick Zaiac, who is here on the call. Nick represents the town of Arlington, Vermont. And Nick has quite an energy plan in place as he's moving through weatherization and energy efficiency options for his town. We can learn a lot from him and all of the different sourcing that he's doing right now. So he'll share also. And I want to just, without further ado, hand it over to you all. Mike, if you can start in.
Thank you, Karen. I just want to mention that Becca White is also a state representative, and she represents, I believe, Hartford, right? Yeah. And Vermont's weatherization effort is one of the areas that the House Energy and Technology Committee hopes to enhance. We know that weatherization programs are good for Vermont and good for Vermonters, and also good for the country. And this is recognized by President-elect Biden in his clean energy plan. If I can quote from that, energy efficiency is arguably the most important energy resource we have, widely recognized as the cheapest, fastest, and most effective solution for our energy and environmental challenges. It has the power to deliver tremendous economic, social, climate, resiliency, and health benefits, and is by far the largest job creator in the clean energy sector. So we're talking about energy efficiency for residential and commercial buildings, and we're looking at it as a real economic development program. So weatherization saves money for consumers. Weatherization of an inefficient home saves about 25% of the annual heating energy requirement, and the energy cost savings are accumulative over the years.
Okay.
The problem is that there's a significant upfront cost. Therefore, most low and moderate income homeowners require assistance. This assistance comes in the form of low-income weatherization assistance programs run by community action agencies, assistance for moderate income homeowners provided by Efficiency Vermont and utilities. In 2007, the legislature set a goal of weatherizing 80,000 housing units by 2020. Yet at the end of 2019, only about 27,000 units had been weatherized, according to the Department of Public Service. During the period of the American Recovery and Reinvestment Act in 2009 and 2010, funding was provided for about 8,000 units per year. Today, though, The number of homes being weatherized is only about 1,500 units a year. Low-income weatherization, funded by a 2-cent per gallon gross receipts fuel tax, accounts for about 700 units per year. And with revenues from the Regional Greenhouse Gas Initiative, Efficiency Vermont can help another 550 moderate income homeowners with thermal efficiency work. And Vermont Gas Systems has a weatherization program for its customers, which does about 200 units per year in Vermont gas territory. The challenges to accomplishing more include funding. Even a 2-cent per gallon additional tax on heating fuel, which runs on an average about another $15 to $20 per homeowner, that ran into heavy opposition in 2018. So we've got a lot of work to do to convince Vermonters that it's worth doing. Another challenge is workforce training and development. We need more workers in these good paying jobs, and we need banks and appraisers to accurately account for energy efficiency and home values. And we need to enforce residential building standards for new construction. Enforcement in the commercial building sector is working, but there is little to none in the residential construction center because that's mainly dependent on municipalities. An energy efficient home provides the basis for not only saving fuel costs, but also for transitioning from fossil fuels to cleaner electricity via heat pumps. And if we supplement weatherization with net metered solar, much of the energy requirement can be met. President-elect Biden's clean energy plan, soon to be president, recognized the value of weatherization plays in reducing energy bills, creating economic opportunity, and improving public health. It supports workforce development in the clean energy industry, focused on training workers in underserved communities, and it increases the use of LIHEAP funds for weatherization, supplemented by solar from 15% to 25%. And it creates new programs using federal investment, incentives, and public-private partnerships to spur retrofitting of homes and buildings. To implement this plan, he will, of course, need the cooperation of Congress. And how this will play out depends on the results of the special election for the 2 Senate seats in Georgia on January 5th. If they go to the Democrats, there'll be a 50-50 split in the Senate, and the Democrats will control most of the committees with Vice President Kamala Harris presiding. And if it goes to Republicans, or if one seat goes to Republicans, then unfortunately, Mitch McConnell will again preside over the Senate, and his history has been to block legislation coming over from the Democratic House. So we'll see what happens from there, and I'll turn it back to you.
All right. Yeah, no, thank you for that, Mike. Becca, would you like to chime in there as well with your work as it relates? And I know I heard quite a bit through that just in the business of solar here, there is a huge need for energy appraisers, enforcement of commercial buildings, standardization of type of heat pumps. Anyhow, I could go on and on, but Becca, I'll let you chime in.
Sure. Yeah. So this is lovely. So Mike and I both serve in the State House. And what's really great is Mike's committee with energy and technology is right down the hallway from the committee that I serve on, which is House Transportation. So the only additional piece I would add, because I think you framed it up really well, Mike, is that I think as a state, we're starting to recognize that energy doesn't just mean one thing. It doesn't just mean turning your light switch on and off. It encompasses a lot of different ways we live in the world, whether it's how we heat our home, what kind of cars we drive, how we work, where we work, when we work. Mm-hmm. So there's a lot of creative solutions happening in the State House. And so anyone who's trying to think about on a local level and a state level, how they can get involved, your local energy committee and reaching out to your representatives like Mike or I make a big difference on a local level.
Thank you. Yeah, any questions so far? We're gonna open up the chat, and then also Nat can unmute you if you have any so far with regards to anything that's been said. I have some questions about, sometimes it gets lost in translation, I think often actually, what legislation changes happen from administration to administration. And I know, everyone knows that the Biden energy plan is quite aggressive, more so than Obama's, and of course, certainly quite different than Donald Trump's. But we don't want to steer, we want to steer away from political conversation tonight. What we do want to talk about, though, as it relates to Vermonters and state incentives and federal incentives that we can all enjoy. How do they really affect us in our decision making to weatherize our homes and our businesses? So maybe on that note, Nick, you can speak to what incentives you're looking at for the town of Arlington and your plan, or if anyone else has another question, we can let those be heard. Nick, go ahead.
Okay, so I have a couple of little pieces here. So here in Arlington, we are addressing improving the energy footprint, cleaning up the energy footprint of the town on a number of fronts. First, we took advantage of some of the Efficiency Vermont incentives to replace our previous halogen lighting in our recreation park with new LED lights that have certainly dramatically dropped the energy usage in that park facility. And we look forward to potentially replacing more of these lights or all of these lights into the future. We're also undertaking renovation work, or will be undertaking renovation work to add insulation to our town hall building, and also getting a better handle on the energy efficiency of all of our other town buildings and all of our other town vehicles, with an eye toward when we replace vehicles, replacing them with energy efficient alternatives. But the real highlight of all this actually comes as the direct result of state action under Act 174. We recently implemented Act 174's recommendations and mandates in our town plan, which passed in June. And then we've also added
Nick,
renewable energy provisions to the town. Yes.
Can I interrupt you and just, we don't know what those regulations are.
Oh, yeah.
Maybe give
So
an
Act
example.
174 required the mapping of the renewable energy potential in municipalities. This is an important thing that's being implemented in town plans across the state, and it was really successful, at least in our case and anecdotally in other towns, in starting the conversation about renewable energy potential in each of these towns. It also has encouraged the towns to implement changes to their zoning bylaws that make it easier to build renewable energy facilities. In our bylaw, there's kind of an out for variances to make it easier to build renewable energy facilities that would otherwise be precluded from construction by other planning rules. That has made it dramatically easier to build and get permission to build renewable energy on homes and on other kind of ground-mounted solar type arrays across town, and really harness what renewable energy potential there is. We don't have a lot of flat land. It's certainly something that's going to make it dramatically easier moving forward to get solar panels on more of the roofs in this town, and make it easier to get the permission you need to make the building changes that are necessary to get this work done. This is happening across the state, so you can kind of see this as a piece of what the state law has successfully incentivized people like me and the other officials out there to get in place to make sure that these towns can get renewable energy facilities built.
Got it.
Can I chime in on that? This is Thomas Hand.
Yeah, hi, Thomas. Welcome.
Thank you. So just as a bit of background, I develop solar projects. I actually developed, built, and owned the solar project on top of Fisher Elementary in Arlington. going back to 2000. We did that one in 2016. And then I have projects on a number of other school districts down in that area. And I've done about 10 megawatts worth of ground mounted projects in Bennington and Rutland County. So just, I don't want to throw you under the bus, Nick, but from a solar developer perspective, I would say Act 174 has been a real hindrance. I think it is it's a well-intentioned law or act that actually has been detrimental to the development of renewable energy projects. So to be clear, rooftop projects are not governed at the town level. Rooftop projects are governed at the state level. And so Act 174 has no bearing on rooftop. It's really about ground mount and zoning. And so I don't really disagree with what you said. I just want to make that clear. And ground mount projects, what I have seen in a number of towns that I've developed projects is that Act 174 often gets co-opted by folks within town government who are opposed to solar, and they use it as a bludgeon by which to prohibit solar. I've had conversations with a number of town officials in Bennington, Rutland County, and I've had comments made to me such as, oh, when we put this in place, we thought that we actually would be blocking all solar projects. We're surprised you were able to get them built from town officials. So it's certainly not the intention of all towns, but a number of towns have unfortunately used it as a way to block the development of renewable energy projects. And that's obviously very town by town based on their intentions. So I would say in some ways it's been for some towns that have implemented it well under its true intentions, it's worked very well. And in other towns, it unfortunately is now a serious impediment to the development of renewable energy projects, whether they're cited well or poorly.
Thanks, Thomas. I know another question came in from participant Louise Guido, just wondering, what kind of collaboration is happening town to town? I was on a Manchester, and actually, Thomas, your father, Jim, is on the line too. We were both at the Manchester Planning Commission meeting where they were planning for solar and looking at different sites. So I'm just curious, Nick, if in your experience, and even Mike or Becca, maybe you can chime in here. What kind of collaboration is happening? Because there are, even I do site visits. We work in New York, Vermont, and Massachusetts, and there are some massive solar farms going in just, within a 30-minute radius of us. So I'm just curious how the towns are working together to learn from one another.
My experience, I've not really done a whole lot of on this kind of collaborating across towns. It seems like the setup of energy committees on a town by town basis taking the lead on this does kind of encourage and incentivize a little bit more fragmentation. That said, a lot of towns do have a really good working relationship between their planning infrastructure, their energy infrastructure, and then their select boards. It really does take all of these entities working together in concert to get this done. But the instances of working across towns seem to be a little bit less common.
Got it. Okay.
Yeah, I'll just chime in and say that Johanna Miller is a person that works with town energy committees and has done a good job, I think, in helping out with communications there. And also want to acknowledge there are two members of the Charlotte Energy Committee on the call here, Deirdre Holmes and Matt Burke. So welcome, you guys.
Yeah. Thank you, Mike. Welcome, Deirdre. And I just saw a question from Deirdre. Actually, Becca, I was wondering, oh, you did answer that. I see there's a great network, VCAN. The VCAN network is fantastic. Yes, for geography. Yeah, go ahead.
I was gonna say the VCAN piece was actually Mike and I were thinking exactly the same way, because VCAN is Johanna Miller's, it's underneath VNRC, the Vermont Natural Resource Council. So VCAN is a fabulous organization if you're trying to work collaboratively with other energy committees. And they also have their upcoming conference, which is all virtual this year. I believe it starts, I want to say December 4th is the first day, but it's like a multi-day thing this year. Over that weekend. So I highly recommend, if you're trying to collaborate, or if you're a part of an organization like, I don't know, maybe this, the group Power, your organization, or Thomas, like being a part of that, even if you're not on an energy committee, is a great opportunity to meet people who are involved in the conversation. But I would say, Deirdre, your question is so relevant. If you didn't see the chat, her question is around, are there conversations happening in Montpelier around Job Corps to address weatherization needs, to create jobs and training for out of work Vermonters to help low income Vermonters weatherize their homes? I would say that is like the dream. Would be like, can we help transition the workforce to give people the skill set they need to do weatherization work on the local level? It's such a good career path, and we are hungry for contractors right now in Vermont, where I know people who want to take advantage of the incentives before the end of the year, but cannot get a contractor who is a scheduled appointment available anywhere in like the first part of 2021.
Yeah.
So that's the dream. And I would say it takes Mike is even more in these conversations than I am, but I think it takes a fundamental reckoning that this is not going to be free, that the transition to doing this type of work is not cost neutral, and we need to invest in it. So I think if we can support federal money coming our way, that will be huge. But I also think as a state, we need to consider how we want to invest in it. But again, transportation, I'm only cars and trucks, so.
Yeah, and I'll add here that in response to Deirdre's question, that this year we passed S220, which is a workforce development bill, and it has provisions there to help people get their skills up in weatherization. And Senator Bray, on a recent call, is working with Vermont Gas Systems, and they are trying, Vermont Gas Systems, Neil Lunderbill, and they're working on a supercharged weatherization program that includes regulatory infrastructure, community implementation plan, which includes workforce development. So more is to come in this coming legislative session.
That's fantastic. That's good news. All right. Thanks, everyone. This is great. This is really informative. And there's been some great resources shared in the chat. If you have any interest to check those out. Just want to turn it over now so we can try and stick to our 30-minute timeline. And thanks to the realtors here tonight who are killing it. This is the hottest market Vermont's ever seen since 9/11. So I hear. I don't know why I got out of real estate, but solar's been pretty good too. But I wanted Laura to share from Manchester and kind of the Northern Shire about, weatherization stories. What are people doing to their homes that they've been able to help them sell or just cut their utility bills? I don't know if you have a story for us, Laura, but we'd welcome.
Well, one of your neighbors is one of my stories.
That's right. Who's
So
on the call?
The immediate response for me, for particularly those who are buying the antique homes, is that get into the foaming insulation in the weatherization process as soon as you can, because it pays back. It really does pay back very quickly. I live in the old farmhouse. And I, by example, share the programs with the buyers, and it does they definitely respond. And I think your neighbors are on it already. Of course, understand. As I was explaining to you a little bit early, and I just, as a precaution, we also have to explain to people about the Vermont culture. and the Vermont culture being that our contractors are very well intended, and it is still a process here for the business aspect of our contractors. They're yes people. They want to please. They're going to put you on the schedule somewhere, but they may not come around for a while, and you can't give up on them. You just really, they're all really great people out there, but it is part of the Vermont culture. And quicker we get used to hearing that we have to be a little bit more patient, I think it will go a long way with all the newcomers. But the solar, we've also, I think that you're right, that when people have solar panels or projects with their homes, we do get attention, a special type of attention very quickly on those homes. But they are still too few and far between. That's because that's the most expensive project as recognized. But yeah, I think we're moving in the right direction.
Yeah, I agree. What do you think, Jenifer, from the Southern Shire, and actually your experience since I'm living in your house and as a new homeowner yourself, what have you done?
So yes, my husband is a contractor, and we did a gut renovation of the home that Karen is living in now. So it does have the spray foam in the walls, and we made it an old farmhouse that was going to be as airtight and energy efficient as possible. But my preference, where we moved to, was brand new construction, and Efficiency Vermont also has a program for that as well, and where there was a rebate for us if we met or exceeded their minimum standards, which we did. And for us, that included, heat pumps and solar out on our garage. And I will say that it's an extremely comfortable way to live. The house is completely wrapped with foam on the outside of the house. So that continuous barrier is incredible, and it definitely makes for a very comfortable living. So for anybody who, like me, is just chilled to the bone all winter long, I was not asked, I did not ask to be born in Vermont. So I'm very much a warm weather person. This is a nice way to live. So I say that it's not just about the money savings, and it's not just about the environment, but it is also about comfort. So there's a lot of different ways to approach this with our buyers who are looking for ways to improve their home, whether they want to buy brand new, retrofit. Laura and I are very much advocates of green developments, and it's important to share those resources. So we're just so grateful for partnerships like this one.
Yeah, thanks so much. We're glad to have you here. We want to do more of these events. And actually, I'm curious, Jenifer, you don't have to go into too much of the numbers, but when you talk about rebates and credits, and this comes up a lot on the solar side of things, people are trying to see, everyone has a budget, right? And so in the planning and all of that, did you find that it made it worth it for the, initial investment and in getting it all done on this new home? Or
it's a great question. It definitely is still more expensive to do it this way, but it's the right way to do it. If you're going to build a brand new house, you should do it this way so that you are meeting or exceeding those guidelines. We probably spent 50% more than what we got back in terms of those energy rebates in order to meet those requirements. But like I said, we would have done it anyway. So it was just nice to get some of that money back. The residential new construction program, when we went through it last year, gave a $2,500 rebate, which they did promptly process. I will say that there was one part of it that we were exempted from because of COVID. They were supposed to come and do an in-person site visit with a blower door test. And based on all of the criteria of what they had seen before and all the evidence that we provided, we were approved for the program without them doing that final piece of it, but that is a normal step in the process. For me, the solar piece of it, I would say when we did our installation last fall, it was at the 30% ITC, the investment tax credit. So for example, we had 40 panels installed. I don't know the kilowatts off the top of my head. I'm not that much of a solar geek. I wish I was. I'll get there someday. That cost us about almost $40,000. And so to get, you know, a $13,000 tax credit helped tremendously because we are both self-employed people. So that comes off of our income that we would have had to pay taxes on. So that's a really big incentive.
I was going to ask you about that. So as people are working from home, I think I asked this question the last event too. It's always interesting to me. Some companies are allowing people to claim, you know, their home office, and, you know, like we moved states. So I don't think Louise is able to do this with Dow Jones or Wall Street Journal, but you know, other companies are, and as a, you know, there's a whole commercial businesses can gain so much more from the incentives that I see when I do the calculations. The macros depreciation and the tax credits are even greater. So did you experience that, Jenifer? Did you guys get to take advantage of that for your husband's business or for yours?
We are both work from home professionals, and so we both just simply take the 25% off of all of our cost of running our property. So it didn't have a specific angle on it as far as the solar installation was concerned. That was just a straight ITC credit that we got.
Got it. Okay. All right. Well, we are at the 31 mark. We do have, if anyone wants to stay on, we have a bit about Biden's energy plan. So we'll go ahead and share that. And if you do have to jump off, thanks for joining us. If you want to stay on, we're going to do just a quick, I think it'll take like 2 minutes, little presentation from the Power Guru team, and would welcome your feedback, or unless anyone has any questions. I'm seeing the chat was lively tonight, so that's always good. Thomas, thanks for your input. It sounds like, you know, in the solar business, it's been busy year round, and then in the summer, in the summer busy, and then in the winter it kind of starts to die, and we're seeing that too. It just slows down a little bit, but
all right, that was in response to efficiency.
Efficiency. Okay, got it.
Way, 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 way worse in the efficiency business than it is in solar. The phone rings for 4 months. Everyone wants it done because it gets cold, and then in the spring and summer, you are sitting there twiddling your thumbs.
Right.
It's a terrible problem for that sector.
Got it. Okay. Interesting. All right. So snow, rain, winter. Next slide, Nat. What incentives are there? We've already talked about that. Well, I'm sorry about this format change from PowerPoint to Google Slides here. But we wanted to give this example of Google and where we're at. And you know, Biden is promising, and Harris is promising a really aggressive 2035 target. So here you can see Google was, you know, tracking their offsetting their emissions and reducing emissions from 2007 to 2030. But under Biden's administration, let's see how companies like Google and the rest of us, small companies do. He's going to have some executive orders that are expected to surpass Obama's administration, really being aggressive to, you know, 100% clean energy target by and net zero emissions by 2050. So just curious if anybody has any comments to that. If not, then we'll go ahead to the next slide. Nat, go ahead. And then also, you know, this Biden-Sanders climate plan, everyone knows we love Sanders being Vermonters, but you know, carbon-free power production by 2035. This is kind of redundant, but what I did want to highlight, because we're seeing this a lot, you know, as Vermont offered a new incentive with EV charging vehicles. We were talking about this earlier before we started the event tonight, and what that looks like for solar and efficiency, energy efficiency programs. You can get $4,000 back. That's what they tell me, and I need a new vehicle. Not really, but I might get one just to get the 4,000 back and see if I can tie it to a solar array. But also under Biden's climate plan, they're planning to install 8 million more solar roofs over the next 5 years. That's exciting. And then next slide, Nat, I think that might be it. Yes, go ahead.
I may make a comment here. Biden can issue executive orders, but anything that will require funding will have to make its way through Congress.
That's right.
Allocate funding.
Yeah, so we'll see, right? I mean, we're kind of a 50-50 split right now. I know we still have the runoffs in Georgia. And what's the other state? My brain, in January. So we'll see what happens there. I like this quote because, you know, the mind really is like a muscle. The more you exercise it, the stronger it gets, the more it can expand. This is what we're aiming to do here with the education events like this, just to really try and think a little bit beyond where we normally go, whether it's just thinking to, you know, EV or solar. There's other measures that can also be done to tie into those clean energy sources. All right, and the final slide, we just wanted to thank you guys for joining us tonight. If anyone has any questions, feel free to reach out. Nathan and Nat and myself are here on the call. We can always be reached by cell phone or email. Or our office line, and stay tuned. We'll do this again next month and hope to answer your questions and look forward to seeing you again.